I'm not even sure.
Here, and we've got, I think, do I do anything?
You're all set.
Okay, the only person I heard from was Warren, so I think he's the only one missing tonight from our group. Old business, let's get right into it. Well, no, let's say, is there any changes to the minutes from the last meeting that anybody has any input on? Again, it was pretty straightforward, and Tom sent that out to everybody, so
I thought they looked good.
I thought they were fine. And we'll make those available as well. We have changed the time to 5:30, and I hope that works for everybody,
Yeah,
as opposed to 7.
I'm not real wild about that idea. Is there a reason we were meeting at 5:30? and
It's
not
harder
7?
for me to go later, just because of my work schedule. And 5:30 just seemed like, especially if they're gonna have a second meeting after us, like they are tonight,
Yeah, well, normally that's not the case, but
right? But I
I
would
just
just,
think it's kind of right smack in the middle of dinner time.
yeah.
As far as like practice
And,
schedules.
Annie's gotta come here straight from work. So,
No, I ran home to grab these, but yeah, I barely had
Yeah.
the time.
so.
They were already printed.
I would just as soon have it moved back to 7, but that's mine.
Anybody else?
I just as soon get it over with.
Well, I've got a long schedule, so,
I would too. I'm busy all the time. This kind of lets me get home to put kids to bed.
yeah. And we do try to make this an hour meeting, so I'd like to keep at least trying this for a while and see how that goes. Old
Did you change
business.
the posting?
I'm sorry? They did, yes. Yep.
So it's 5:30 all the time then?
At least at this point in time, that's what it's been stated, as far as I know. Eastern Avenue, Bob, do you have any updates? Didn't we ask for a letter of support from the board?
That's what I was going to ask, how that went.
Okay.
I don't think I was at the last board
And
meeting.
Paul, wasn't that brought up and discussed?
Right, so where we are, is Bob and I separately have spoken to Pat Elliott, right?
Yeah, but can we back up a little bit here? We're talking about the letter that we asked the board to write.
I'm unaware of it.
Okay, here's I'll read it from our minutes last time.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
It's on the first page, right after number 1 on old business.
First page.
It says, "The committee appeared to agree that it would be difficult to move ahead with any planning until we get greater clarity about whether and when this project would begin." Is that it?
No, that's...
Nope, next, keep going.
The committee, under motion, the
Yes, there
committee
we go.
recommended to the board that a letter be written to the Charlevoix Township Board supporting additional parking at the Eastern Avenue Beach. Seconded and passed.
So that's on the
I'm
second.
looking at my notes from last time, it's not in there. So if somebody didn't say last meeting, I sure did. Now, we've said that, and let's just quick jump to, Tom, did you get an email from Marlene about the minutes? She's told me.
Asking that she be copied on them?
Yeah,
Yes.
so, yeah.
I think
that
she
would
has
help
been,
because
but
then-
maybe
well,
not the agenda. I'm not sure.
She says at this point she has not been copied, so that would help.
Well, she asked me yesterday and I tried to send her, but I didn't have internet last night, so.
I have her address in the group that I use.
You use the
So-
official one?
Yeah, the address that I have for her in the
Clerk,
group is the
paste
clerk.
under clerk,
Clerk's,
yeah,
yeah.
All right, but I know enough about this to talk about it. All right, so things need to be worked out. First off, we have to find out what's involved with whether or not we can get the sewer line from where we can put it, which is, it's actually in the Darton agreement that allows us to do this. And we have to go across the beach, and we have to go, the sewer line runs on the water side of Beach Avenue. So you all know where Eastern Avenue, Central Avenue, and Western Avenue all go down to Lake Charlevoix, and then Beach Avenue runs along the lake. So the sewer is a high-pressure main or sewer line, and it's on the south side of that right-of-way. It's really not a right-of-way in a plat, it's clearly belongs to the road commission. So, and Pat said we'd have to we'd bore it through, and we'd need to have a pump, an E1 pump or something like that, because of the high-pressure main. So we'd have to have that at the facility. Now, that being said, so he said to me, and again, we're playing phone tag all the time, yes, we could do this. There's no reason we couldn't do this. Now, from that perspective, then what we need to do is just run it by Brian Graham, the attorney, to find out if there's any problem with our agreement with Abel's, which is not Able, originally with their parents, with Able. So, that's what we need to do.
Is that in order to secure additional parking? I'm not
No,
clear what
he's
we're talking
talking
about.
about- He's talking about the bathroom.
We're talking about the bathroom.
Okay, I'm trying to clarify where we're going with this. The first question was, did we ever ask the board to write a letter to the township, Charlevoix Township Board supporting additional parking? Did we ever do anything?
Ron said he was gonna do that, and of course he hasn't.
Okay, so it was brought up at the
again
last
Monday.
meeting, at the township board level.
Hmm?
It was brought up at the last township board meeting,
Well,
to
Was
ask
this
Ron
parking
to do
be
that.
only in our township, or was this parking to be in?
it was, Charlevoix Township
Town?
owns the lot across the road.
Yeah, cause there's no
Vacant.
more room
Right.
for parking on
Right.
our side, right?
No, there's not only no more room, it's, we can't, according to the agreements we
Right.
have with the
Right.
two property owners, we can't do that. So, all I can say to you, Michelle, is that it was in Ron's court, and we'll bring it up on Monday.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I'll bring it up, Eastern Avenue parking.
Okay.
Now,
Now about the bathroom or
The
sewer or
bathroom.
whatever.
so I thought that's what you were talking about. I didn't realize you were talking
No,
about
we were
parking.
talking about this letter.
All right. It's, we can't do it yet till we know we can do it. All right, now, so we'll talk about that on Monday.
Okay.
There's some things like grants. If you're going to do this, you want to get a grant. You've got to write grants. You have to decide what you're going to do. And then, to get the money. And then, also, if we should consider talking to Charlevoix Township.
I talked to Charlevoix Township and I talked to Pat Elliott about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah,
So Chuck Centers told me where the water is. Charlevoix Township has met me down there, physically showed me where the water is.
yeah.
We know where the water is. We know where the sewer is. What we need to do is find out if we can put a bathroom there, where it would be, and then I think we can figure out how much this will cost, and then we can fundraise and raise money through grants. Because once we know where that bathroom can be, we'll know how long that sewer line is, we'll know how long that water line is, and we can come up with a shell of a structure and start there and see how much it would cost to put a bathroom in. We need to know where it can be if we can do one.
We need the engineer.
Not necessarily.
Just about anybody that's gonna give you a grant wants the facts and figures from an engineer.
Sure,
Or
I
someone
mean-
with similar qualifications.
I feel like that'd be a good place to end up down the road a little bit, but I don't think we need an engineer to start.
All right.
Any other additions
Oh,
about,
no, I mean, right now,
Eastern
I'd like
Avenue,
to
what do we
get
wanna
a
do?
list of everything Bob just said. All right, but where's the water, by the way?
Where you park at, if you come down the hill and you park on the left there where the parking is,
Yeah,
it's almost right across the street from that in the ditch. There's like a lot right there which Marianne Inger and Sharon Bagby talked about putting the parking when they were here. It's like right there. It's right in the ditch right there. It's closer than the sewer is.
Wouldn't it make sense to consider putting the bathroom over on that side then too?
To put it over in Charlevoix Township side?
With
It
the
would be a
additional
lot
parking,
closer.
you
Huh?
think?
It would be a lot closer.
Yeah, it'd save money having to go under the road or whatever kind of stuff. It would take in, you wouldn't have to deal with the able, contract, I mean, whether it's allowed or not. It just seems like it would short circuit a lot of problems if in fact that could be done.
Be worth asking the question.
Right.
Not only that, but it's gonna benefit them as much, if not more. I mean, let's face it, all the people who live in Pine Point use that beach. So,
Well,
So do a lot of people from Hayes. That's what I see a lot when I go down there after work, is a lot of people from Hayes. I see more than Pine Point people there. And it is in Hayes Township.
let's take it with our task.
I mean, what research we did a number of years ago, there's a lot of parks that sit on on county lines that both sides, they can share in the things of it. And it'd be worthwhile to explore, kind of stuff.
yeah, I think
I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's a good
So
point.
can you bring that up at the meeting, Paul?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be a lot easier, right there, Jim,
Mhm.
everybody. We not only have to get sewer or water, we have to get electricity. And that would be much easier to get it there than to bore everything under the,
Who owns that, bit,
What bit?
the property on which,
I don't know.
They're
It was for
talking
sale
about the-
last year for like a day. There was a for sale sign there and it didn't last long. I don't know whatever happened.
The guy that used to own it is Tom Thomason, who was a beach and ski buddy of mine, and he sold it to some people who, he put it on the market, and some people who'd been renting it from him for a long time decided that they were gonna buy it. So,
you mean that
The-
little cottage in the back, that's the viewscape? So who,
yeah, I was just about, somebody said that the township owned a lot in that corner?
I'm not.
yeah, I
crystal
don't
clear on that.
understand what you're
I've
talking
been-
about, the
I've
public.
been-
that was
I guess
private.
I don't know.
That's been
what's-
brought up a number of
over there.
times that they own some property across the road. I don't know where that is, but,
Andy, we could find that out real fast.
Yeah, I could,
Tomorrow at work, you could.
Yeah.
I'd be able to find it out right now.
Oh, yeah, I go into the
So,
county website.
So what needs to happen, if this is what you're recommending, then a letter, forget all this call up on the phone and stuff, we need to write a letter, official letter, to Charlevoix Township, outlining exactly what we're talking about. And the way I'd throw in on it is, because we could get a lot more points if the two townships went together
Yes,
to do it.
Mhm.
applying for
the-
funds.
the-
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
And then the matching sum, the two townships could split 50-50,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Because we have no idea how much it'll be, but always more than you think it'll be. So that's all
Okay.
we gotta do.
And it'd be,
But nobody knows, now back to what Bob's saying, is how do you find out how much this might cost? And I have no idea, Bob, where I go to find that out, other than hire an engineer and have them tell me what it is, what their estimate is. So I'm listening, because I'm gonna share that with the board.
I mean, I build stuff all day long, and if we were to say that the bathroom's gonna go in this spot, then I could talk with the people who do the direct bore. I could talk with the contractors. We could come up with an idea for how we want the design to be. I mean, we're talking a couple toilets, a couple sinks, walls, roof. We could ballpark some numbers that way.
after
So
you hone it in, I have a friend that would give us a ballpark too. I mean, after you hone it in to where it is. He does this stuff in UP a lot, and so, but it'd be a ballpark figure kind of stuff.
I think that's all you can ask for right
Right.
now.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gets you started.
But it would just be
Right
nice to
direction.
have a spot where we could put it, whether it's on Charlevoix Township side or Hayes Township side.
So what I say is that indeed, if Charlevoix Township owns that property across the way,
I-
we should ask them
I
if
don't know
they'd
what
be
they're talking
willing
about,
to.
unless they're talking about this road area here,
Yeah.
it's not enough room for anything.
Yeah, and these lines,
Yeah, they're not.
they're not very
No.
accurate. I mean, you'll see there's a property line here
Right.
that runs right through a house, so that's an overlay.
Right,
You know, where Eastern Avenue comes down and then kind of elbows around and becomes Beach Drive, there may be room for a car or two there that's part of the right of way that was, you know, that was part of Beach Drive originally.
mhm.
But it's hard for me to imagine that it would be big enough. You might be able to park a car or two there, but it's probably not a place you could put a toilet building.
Okay.
That's my thought too, and that's what the
Okay.
people from Pine Point were asking last week about the letter. If we could just get some rocks moved back so that a couple cars could park there.
Mhm.
So you're saying
Or less
that
month.
you don't think that that lot would be big enough
For a bathroom, I
with the
don't.
setbacks and all that kind of stuff?
I don't think so, but it would be nice if Charlevoix Township wanted to pay half and put one there, but I don't think that's really gonna be where it ends up.
Well,
Well,
then
do we know on the agreement if we can even put bathrooms down there?
Not yet.
Yeah, that's why he
So
said it would have to be
we're
researched by the
Right.
attorney.
We need to ask Brian
Right,
that
right.
question, if the agreement allows us to bore underneath that property. See, we're supposed to leave it as it is.
Hmm.
But whether boring and putting electrical and water and sewer lines
Putting,
really is.
Well, in a building.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say, putting a bathroom there is not
Yeah,
exactly
but-
leaving it
but-
as it
but
is.
The bathroom is not on their agreement.
Right.
The bathroom's on the Darton agreement,
Mhm.
Tom Darton,
Mhm.
his brother, or
Uncle.
uncle, good,
Okay.
sorry, you're not that old.
The what do you mean the bathroom's on the agreement?
Yeah, it's right, you know where the trees are.
Precluding
The little
it or
clump of trees right
supporting
along the
it?
beach behind it,
Mhm.
right in there, that area.
Yeah, it's like it couldn't before, but then when it got sold, now
Yeah.
we can.
We
But-
can
but-
now.
But all the
Arthur-
details,
That's what I'm not
all the
clear on.
details have to be worked out though. I mean, and so
Oh,
that,
okay.
I mean, that, to me, the first step is to go to the Brian and find
Is
out.
that violating the spirit of the agreement, the
Well,
intent of
that's
the
what we need.
agreement?
I don't know.
We gotta
I-
find that out.
Oh,
Don't know.
okay.
And we need to approach Greta. Don't ask me what her last
Who's
name is.
Greta?
It's
Oh.
Greta, isn't it? Greta.
From tip of the
And I
net.
don't know what her
That's
married
the
name
Abel's
is.
daughter.
Who's Greta, but Greta Abel's.
Yeah, but she's.
Not Greta.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to figure that out too. Okay, so it sounds like some more research has to be done, obviously,
Right.
before we go
Well,
any direction.
why don't we, let the township board discuss this on Monday. And, before then, I wanna find out the size of that lot. And,
Who owns it?
see, and who owns it, yeah. And let's do that in addition. And then also, so if we have that kind of information, then we could, if it was possible to cite a facility there, then we could write a letter on that. The other part of it is, what the township board wants this committee to do. The estimating costs, this, that, and the other, what they want. And, also, the issue of, and this is still pretty, we wouldn't do this quite yet, but once we decided we were gonna do something, that's when we should approach Charlevoix Township officially about grouping with us, getting a grant, and doing a 50-50 split on the matching funds. And then, beyond that, This next meeting we're gonna have is fundraising, and there's where you could do some real good fundraising. Whereas, I think that the park is just, as I've said before several times, it's about dead in the water as far as fundraising, due to the fighting and so forth, and disagreement. But this would be a really finite thing to raise funds for, and then all the people in Pine Point and all the people that use that beach, Hayes and whatever, they'd say, well, I can donate to that because I agree with that. Whereas they might not agree to the park because they might put a boat ramp in or something like that I don't like. So, I think that's a perfect fundraising, the kind of thing, the crowd fundraising, all that kind of stuff that we talk about.
So you'll bring this up at Monday's meeting and
yes,
decide
I will bring it up.
what needs to be,
So I need to
steps
know
need to happen.
lot size. And I'll call, Annie gonna be in the office tomorrow?
I am, yes. Well, most of the day, yeah.
Could I call you on that?
Of course.
Lot size.
No, I don't want to talk.
And who owns?
You never call me anymore.
I know,
Feeling jilted.
you're so busy. Let's see, lot size, who owns it? This will be later. we do that. And essentially, well, we need to find out from Brian. That's, but that doesn't mean we can't make some decisions like, all right, what do you want the recreation committee to do? Assuming that Brian says it's okay and Greta goes along with it. That, then what would you want them to do? That's, because we could learn it earlier than a month from now. So then you could have that all, you could have that to go on. So I do think that we should spend a little time, Michelle, and try to figure out who would do what as far as getting these prices together, an estimate, a ballpark figure. So I think we should put a little time on that.
Okay,
So-
but we'll need to get the board to decide what they really want us to do, if they want us to work on that.
Well, if you wanna wait another month, then okay.
That's fine with me. I'm not going to be swimming for a while.
I was gonna say, I think we have a while
All right, then
for
we
people to
won't.
be using it, so I think you need to go with the discussing the bathroom, the parking, the attorney review, and then what does the board want us to do?
Well, okay.
And then if the attorney could tell us where the bathroom could be, that would be spectacular.
Well, I can tell you where it's gonna be.
You can tell us.
It's all spelled out in your dark agreement.
Okay.
It's dash back from those trees, right there.
Okay.
We can't put it in the trees, that area with the trees, that's called the natural area. It'd be right smack in front of it. There's no setbacks, we could just put it right there.
I guess maybe you and I could maybe go down there and you could tell me exactly which trees you're talking about. Because I know like right behind the beach there's like a skinny row of trees and then it kind of comes out a little bit. And then there's trees on that other side. When we did that spring cleanup, there were trees that we couldn't cut down. Remember?
Well,
When you go do that, I'd like to be included if I can.
if you just.
'Cause I don't have
If you could
grasp of this.
visualize where the Able cabin is,
Mm-hmm.
and then in front of it, there's just no trees, just
Mhm.
lawn thing,
Mhm.
and then you have the parking and so forth. But right on the east side of where their little cleared spot from the cabin is, there are trees. And that lot belonged at that time to Tom Darton and his family. That's been sold. And where those, right at that point where the trees start, it goes right up to where the new guy,
Where we couldn't cut the trees.
Fowler, has his lawn type thing.
Okay.
I mean,
Can I make a suggestion, because we have a lot to cover on this agenda, is when you set this up, copy everybody and let us know when you're going to meet down there. Maybe, I don't have a very clear idea of where any of this is, so I'd like to be included, and anybody else that wants to show up to see what we're talking about, what maybe the possibilities could be, could come from this group. So, does that sound good? Everybody? Okay. Next on the agenda, fundraising, upcoming grants. I just wanted to make sure that we knew the fundraising meeting is right after this. You're welcome to stay for it. Tom and Annie. Annie said you're still looking for the kind of the review of the.
Yeah, I looked for that.
Oh, I brought a copy.
Oh, good, because
Yeah.
I could not find
I
one.
just printed one, but there it is. We can run
Okay.
it through the
I
copy
couldn't
machine.
find one on my computer except in an email that you sent to me. Couldn't find the original.
Is there anything coming up immediately that you guys are working on or somebody is working on that we should know about?
Nothing, the first deadline is in January.
Okay.
Um, and
Is there a grant being worked on? Does anybody know or that we should be aware of?
I've had one meeting with Marlene, and I've got some notes about some ideas for what to get started. But with the confusion of what is, if anything's going to be at Camp Seagull, it's kind of hard to, we're going to try to come up with something that we can move things along
Okay.
a bit, but.
And this one in January is to who? Off the top of your head, do you know? What group?
I don't want to guess, but I could look it up in a minute.
While you're looking it up, I'll go on to the next thing. Strategic planning, we talked about last time, and I gave this group the information about what a strategic planner does and what would be involved in it. And my suggestion was to pass this information on to the township board. And you as a committee decided that it was a good idea as long as it didn't involve phase one. So I did address the board at the last meeting. They seem interested. If it didn't include phase one, and it was also supported by, I'm blanking out on the guy's name, that was there.
So
Anyway,
the
go ahead.
answer to your question is that it's, there's a county Parks and Recreation millage
Okay.
that raises money and sets aside a certain amount. The grant they normally go up to 10,000, and the deadline is February 1st.
Okay.
The possible ideas are essentially doing some enhancements to the boat launch. Pier de-icing systems was a possibility. And a third idea was to raise some money to finish off the camping, the cabins, the rustic cabins.
Okay. So those are the ideas that are being discussed right now for that grant. Okay, thank you. So back to the strategic planning, basically it was, I thought it was supported at the meeting fairly well, and it was brought up that perhaps if this was integrated, that we could seek matching funds through the community foundation, if possible, to hire a strategic planner to help work on a program that makes sense for everybody, that we can all decide together that where should we go next and how should we approach it. And strategic planning is a good way to get all that information out on the table. It takes a while to do, but I think if the people involved do it, it would definitely be worthwhile, and it would give everybody in the township some idea of where we're trying to go and what we're trying to get done and what our timelines would be presently and, way down the road as well. So it was at least discussed at the township level, and it seemed to be supported by everybody that was there. I didn't hear any opposition to it, so we'll see where that goes down the road here.
I'm sorry, was that a board level discussion?
Yeah, I just brought it up. I gave them all the information, and so we went from there. No actual plan has been, integrated or whatever, because we don't know what's going to happen when and if with phase one. So it's sort of on standby. Pickleball, I bring that up again because I mentioned it last time. And we did ask the board a few months ago. We as a group liked the presentation that was given to us. And we recommended to the board that they take the time to listen to the presentation. We thought it was a good idea for Camp Siegel. And so we do have Dave Gallant, who came and talked with our group. He will be speaking at the December meeting for the Township Board. And I've got some information if anybody kind of wants to see what he's come up with. And he'll be presenting this to the board, as I said, with some ideas and suggestions. So I just want you to know that, we followed up on what we said we would recommend, and that the Township Board has agreed to listen to him on the December meeting. So as many of you that could be there, it would be nice to show our support for that as well. I think it'd be a really positive thing for Camp Siegel, and it's something that could be worked on regardless of what happens with Phase 1. So it's, again, a step in forward direction.
Win-win.
The December meeting is
Always the second Monday of
the 11th at 7 p.m. So if you can make it, that would be great. Okay.
Has anybody been to the park in the last couple days? Does anybody know if the nets have been taken down?
I don't know.
Those need to be taken down, the tennis court nets and the volleyball nets to be taken down.
Is that something that Craig's supposed to do?
I don't know, but
I don't think I've been down there since the picnic.
If you're having any discussions, Paul, with Marlene, will you ask her that question if they've been taken down?
Well, there's been no discussion that I'm aware of on that. But Marlene, Marlene in this case is the office manager, and the office manager has to tell the maintenance guy what to do.
I'll check with her tomorrow.
Okay, if somebody would check with her, that'd be good.
If they haven't been taken down,
Thank
I'll
you.
see if I can get a key and get it down, because we're supposed to get it anywhere from, they're
3 to 6.
3
Yeah,
to 6, and some places 6 to 8.
you just guess one.
12 to
Pick a number.
15.
Paul, any information on the Army Corps update?
What about the Army? Oh, no.
Okay.
I have not heard a thing. Anybody else heard anything?
No?
Okay.
All I heard there was a new employee and she was making sure she didn't make any mistakes. That was the theory.
Okay, new
That's
business,
what
Charlevoix County Recreation Plan. We did invite Kirsten from the planning, she's the planning coordinator for the Charlevoix County Planning Department. We invited her to come to this meeting, but she had a conflict today, so she would like to come to our December meeting. And here's what she wrote to me. She said, "We haven't yet formulated any specific plans for the trailhead. We're about 1.5 years out from applying for grants for Phase 4 of the trail, which would include the proposed trailhead. Phase 4 will begin at the end of Phase 2, which is at Quarterline Road, and continue on the same side of the road to the Nathan Berry Driggers Nature Preserve across from Camp Siegel. Another aspect of Phase 4 that we still need to work out is the trail route when we get close to the sharp curve near Camp Siegel. We're looking into the possibility of routing the trail through the nature preserve as opposed to going around the curve. Over this next year, we will be discussing this with Little Traverse Conservancy to see if this would be an option. We also need to determine where specifically the trail should cross Boyne City Road in the vicinity of Camp Siegel. I'd be happy to meet with the Parks and Rec Committee to talk about our trail plans and begin discussing the proposed trailhead." So she wanted to know if they could come in December, and I said that would be fine. So
Did I hear you say that they're considering trailhead at Driggers?
that's,
They're exploring that.
she just said they don't have any specific plans for the trailhead, and that they're talking about routing the trail through the nature preserve.
Okay, yeah. to avoid
As
the
opposed to
traffic
around the
issues.
curve there, and that they will be talking to the Conservancy about that, but they also need to determine where it will cross the road. And so
So is that Is the whole entire trail along that stretch slated to be
On the north side.
on the north side?
That's my understanding.
So people would have to make an effort to cross.
Over to Camp
Oh,
Seagull.
wow. That's
Or-
too bad. I was
Or
thinking
I
the
don't know
trail's
if
coming
they're
right
gonna
along.
have it somewhere down the road, come across the
I was
road, and
thinking
then
it's-
the other side will be continued on. I don't know.
To me, it makes more sense, there's no good place for them to do it after the curve.
I would agree with that.
You know, there's no good place for them to do it after.
And there has been
And before you get to the curve, there's quite a long straight stretch where you've got good line of sight.
so some of these questions that you have, everybody has thoughts about, or should the bathrooms be over on the Conservancy side? I don't know. But I just want you to be thinking about some of these questions to ask them when they come next meeting.
And yeah, this trailhead is always part of our plan too.
But I don't know, I never even questioned that the trail might be on the other side of the road. I
You thought it'd
have
be on-
always had it in my mind that it's coming right along.
Well, I figured it
We're gonna
would
be a
cross
pit stop
somewhere
and then
after-
it goes
after
along because it's
Coeur
on that side all the way,
Yeah.
up to the park and
I figured it would cross somewhere
it's on that side, but.
somewhere out, just this side of Coeur d'Alene somewhere where there's a nice long straight stretch
Right,
of road.
I agree.
Because you don't wanna put a crossing on a curve. That's
No,
just-
and they aren't
and they're not gonna
planning
do
on that at
No,
all.
They won't do that.
They said they wouldn't.
So,
So some of these questions we want to know is, why aren't they thinking about that? Or are they thinking about,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's
what I
no
heard
sense
rumored at
discussing
one
it.
point in
I
time
just-
is they were just going to keep going until they hit Horton Bay, and then it'd be kind of
That's to be the question.
Horton Bay,
Here's
they
the-
get through somehow, and then it would be on the other side of the road. But, I don't really know. Ross Maxwell will also be here, so.
Oh, cool.
Think of your questions and think of
well,
some.
have they approach people about right of ways and that kind of thing.
I imagine that they have, and that
Oh,
we'll get that
sure,
information,
sure.
I would think,
Because
when they're
if
here.
it's on the north side of the road, I haven't been approached.
Yeah,
So, that's a matter of,
I can't tell you that.
yeah.
So those are the questions that we need to ask at the next meeting so that we're better informed. Cabin remodeling. Myself and Bob and Paul went over there, and I guess you did at some point in time, Jerry, too.
Yeah, Paul and I went back down last week.
And we looked at a lot of the cabins, the ones down in the lake. It'd be nice to get started on those, but they're in pretty bad shape, support-wise underneath the structure. And, you walk inside and it's got cables holding the sides together, and it's a little questionable. And I hadn't been in those, so. But we did go up to, thinking about the grant that we got, which is up to, Paul, help me out here, or Bob, wasn't it 60,000?
$45,000, and we match 15,000, and 9,000 can be used for engineering, leaving
Right.
51,000.
So, and they have to be ADA available. It has to have a parking, a boardwalk, correct? And a bathroom facility that would accommodate a wheelchair.
So Michelle, your idea, if there was any money left over, you could transfer it to the foundations of the cabin.
Well, so our thought was,
It won't work because you have to do, the whole project has to be ADA. You
Right.
have to-
yeah, I know, I read that too. I did. So it could still happen that way. It just means that we still have to have that ADA requirement fulfilled in what other cabins that we put it into, whether it's 1 or 3. And so our thought anyway about the first cabin to work on, which seemed to be the most logical one, is if you know where the amphitheater was, there's that large cabin up there. And there's actually 2 bathrooms in there, and we looked at it and it looked in pretty good shape, that the whole cabin
It's
was.
probably the newest cabin in the place.
Yeah, and as far as renovating it and making it available, I think that could happen by this summer. Maybe I'm very optimistic, but I could see us working on that, getting that up and going, showing the community that we're doing something really positive, and getting it rented out.
And you're not talking about using the money for you're not making it ADA, but just,
No, I would make it ADA.
well, one thing that I noticed about that cabin that I think will kind of throw a wrench into it is the fact that it sits up so high on the bluff. The front of the cabin's like, the floor of the cabin's head high.
But you can go in that back side door.
I
And we said
understand.
you could put
I
a
understand, but you're gonna
ramp
have
up
to
there.
have a ramp that
Yeah.
can be only, you can only have so much of grade on that ramp
Right,
to get up to that back door.
I agree.
So if the ramp is going to be an ADA compliant ramp, you're not gonna be able to put it like up the side of that cabin. You're gonna have to put it on an angle across or something to be able to get into that back door. So there may be other cabins that would be more suitable to having them ADA compliant for less money.
Well, I think that when Paul and Bob and I looked at it, we thought this was the best choice out of all the others.
I agree, it's the best cabin. I don't necessarily agree that it's the best choice for ADA compliance, because it doesn't, because of the height of the front of the cabin. It's so high up in the air.
But if you came around the side of the cabin where they could park and come up a ramp from there where the grade isn't so steep, I think you could make it happen.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to actually come up the side of the cabin, but you could possibly come at like a 45-degree angle in or something, or a 60-degree angle into the cabin from further up if the parking was a little bit further up. But you're talking about going from, having something that's already higher than what you are at the bottom and then going from there. That would possibly work, but you're not gonna be able to, run, like on some of these cabins that we have almost no slope. Paul and I were looking at number 1, which is down on the bottom, first cabin. That cabin there is gonna be parking right, when the boat ramp and the parking and everything goes through down there. That is gonna be like 20 feet from where the public parking will be for, and I'm sure handicap parking will be there too. So, and that one there's practically no grade.
I could see, I don't know. Paul, you have an input here because you agreed with, what we were saying about that one up on the hill, and Bob, same with you. Even if you want to pick one to start with, it seems like the one that's most logical to start with is the one that's in the best shape, and we can make it happen. I know we can make it happen. And it could be up and running, whereas the other ones down on the lake level, I think are going to take, number one, a lot more work, and number two, will take longer to do because we don't know in phase 1 or how it's going to happen or whatever. So that's going to be prolonged until that's all finished before you can even work on that. So my suggestion, and I'm open to other thoughts here, but to me it made the most sense, and I think both Bob and Paul agreed with myself, and looking at those, is this one up on the top level seemed to make the most sense.
The reason I liked it was because you could get a car right next to it to park, and then you could come in that side door. Your slope has to be 1 and 12 for an ADA ramp. We could do a ramp. I think it could be a straight shot. If not, it might have to zigzag once or twice. Then you come into this back door, and there's 2 bathrooms existing. We could get rid of one of the bathrooms, make the other bathroom ADA accessible, and then if you were to go roll out in front on a wheelchair through the cabin, there's an existing deck that's down a step or so. You have to walk up a step to get into it. We talked about, when the 3 of us were there, raising that deck up so somebody could roll out. They could have that deck as a place to hang out, and then also that cabin would need new roof on it. And we talked about lowering the windows so somebody in a wheelchair could actually see out the windows because they're up too high right now. And I think you start doing all that, 50,000 goes pretty quick.
Yeah, another thing too, though, what about foundation?
That
You're
was the
gonna
best
spend the-
foundation.
I know,
That's
but,
got a good one.
so it wouldn't have to have anything done to the foundation, you're saying?
No.
I don't think so.
That's the only foundation too that's pressure treated 6x6s.
Yeah, I
Everything
did
else
see
is
that it was womanized lumber.
And you could, the roof didn't no sags in the roof, and it,
no sags,
Look
but new
down the
shingles
side?
because of the moss growing on them. New shingles and
Yeah.
underlayment.
I feel like there's also value to the getting it done as soon as possible. Like, I hear what you're saying, but like with where we're at now, with like community consent and everything, it would be nice to have it.
And our thought was too that if we could do the
Agreed.
one and then there was money left over, then we could put that money to try and do the foundations on another one. And then if we had one done, people would see that there's one done. They would see that we started fixing up another one, and then maybe we could get donations rolling in to
Yep.
keep it going.
Yep.
the other thing is, that there was a grant, Jim wrote the grant,
Right.
And so every year, they come up with new grant cycles.
Mhm.
And so if we could do one, and get it accomplished and in action, then when we apply the next grant cycle, say we're gonna do this again, we could go to the same people, literally, say, well, we would like some more money, we're gonna do another one cabin or two, and come look at what we got already, what we did with your
Build
first
upon
grant.
a success.
And I
Mhm.
think that will help things along. I think that what we're talking about with, let's get going here. Nobody expected phase one to be where it is now, which is just mired in bureaucratic, this, that, and the other, we would score that
It's
here.
not bureaucratic.
It's not bureaucratic? Whatever it is.
Political.
Somebody's got somebody's ear, or whatever. So I'm thinking that we should look at that one at the top and do it, as Bob
Well,
was
it would
saying.
be feasible to do it while all the construction of the road and stuff is going on.
Exactly.
And so we
Because you
should
could
get
go
that
around the
going,
other way.
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll.
Good point.
Lots of
We got
options.
it done and finished and start people getting in it, then we can apply for another grant and just keep it
And say,
going.
look how nice this one turned out.
I guess, want to make certain, that, you know, because I brought in the guy from Traverse City, and he wrote us a letter, but it was at cabin number 1 as everything was done on,
Yeah,
you know. And so I want to make certain that, you know, because what the road requirements are, everything else then
yeah.
on that, you know, because
So-
he looked at it as that road was going to be coming in, they're going to come right off there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's what he wrote that letter of agreement. So I want to make certain that, you know, he might
Oh, yeah, that's a
pull
good
his letter
point.
if, you know, I mean, you know.
If we had this all done, phase one was done, it might be a different
Right.
situation. We have to contact the, what do we call
It's a recreation
it?
passport.
Yeah.
Recreation passport. We have to contact them.
And I guess my thing is I would take in, you know, it'd be, his letter's in there, recontact him then to come down and look at that situation, because he might shoot it down immediately
Yeah.
or tell you that, you know, it's no longer cheap, you know, I mean, that, you know, because,
So,
That's a good,
I
Caution,
think what we
caution.
need to do is if first off, this group has to decide that that's what you would like to do versus hold off and then wait and do the ones down by the water. So we agree on doing the one at the upper level, and then once we decide that, then we can say to the board, can say to Marlene, would you give this, contact the person with the grant administrator and ask them what they think about this, and write a letter and get it official and all that kind of stuff, that we can transfer that grant money, that project, to the upper cabin.
I would also like it somewhere in our write-up then too, we say that we commit to making one of the cabins down by the water handicap accessible also.
Well, if we
When we
use any excess money for any of the other cabins from that fund, it has to be ADA.
But still, I mean, but it's gonna take, I mean, it's gonna take all that money just to do one of those
It may,
cabins kind
yeah.
of stuff.
It may.
But my thing is that I don't like the feeling of, well, we'll put the handicap one up on the hill kind of stuff and serve the ones on the water,
Right.
you know. And so I would like us to take and put in there that we will commit to making at least one of those cabins down by the water handicap accessible.
I agree.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Now, Dee, you had a comment?
I just have a question. If you didn't have a grant for this cabin up above, could you make it so it wasn't an ADA cabin?
Oh, yeah.
You could
Yeah.
get-
Yes, oh,
you
yes,
could
oh,
get-
yeah.
I mean, if you could just, so do you, I mean, doing grants is really new to me and all that, but, okay, if you figured out how much it was gonna cost you to do this project, and you did it locally without a grant of any kind, how much it would be compared to what it would be having a grant, and how much it's gonna cost you to do it the way the grant is telling you to do it? I mean, I don't know if I'm saying that.
You're
right.
saying it well.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and that one up on the hill could be made usable, probably pretty cheap.
Yeah.
That was.
Really,
it.
really
Yeah,
pretty
that
cheap.
was,
And then,
That was
and then
another
start
idea that I
renting
was
it.
thinking
And
about,
what
too.
kind of rent do you think you can get for this
And that's been an ongoing debate too, because
I don't know.
it's a rustic cabin, no matter which one
The early
Update.
research was probably around 700 a week.
and I'd be amazed if we got
I
that.
think that's a lot.
I do too.
for a
I
road.
actually did
When
some.
you look at what stuff costs up here, there's a lot of people, that's the only way they can be on the water. You
Go
know,
to the state park and ask them how much they charge for one of those camper cabins.
I did, $65 a night.
Yeah.
Right.
okay?
Oh, is that what they do?
So we're not that
And
far
that's
off
pretty,
that.
that's consistent across the rustic cabins in the state park system, Porcupine and Wilderness,
Is
Right.
that the one
different
that-
places, but
And
it's the
I
same.
mean, basically, that is a room.
And you have to make the
There's no
reservation,
nothing in
a 6 month, they go on reservation 6 months ahead of time, and unless you're there that day, they're gone.
I think there's no problem getting $700 a month for these cabins.
But maybe that's a,
700.
you know, is that a way that you could even, instead of going with the grant? is
I mean,
it go-
The
It's a
only other-
possibility. I
I
would-
mean, I found some sort of small rustic private sector cabins up in the Les Chenaux, and they're $250 a week in the prime season, and
Mhm.
$150 a week in the, or not, sorry, no, $150 a night to $250 a
Right.
night.
Right.
And it
for-
would be
and
something,
these are-
would you rent
And
You
it?
know,
they're not on
rustic-
Lake Charlevoix either.
Yeah.
What was that, Dee?
Would you rent it in the winter too? If somebody wanted, if they wanted?
They wouldn't be able to heat it, I mean, it'd be.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
No.
source of heat at all.
So, back what Dee's saying here is that we could take cabin one down below and take the whole grant thing and fix it up, just one cabin, because we're not getting past one
Right.
cabin.
Well, you have to-
You might not even make it with,
Yeah, we
you know.
might not make it. And the cabin that we're talking about up on the ridge is really in good shape.
Mhm.
I mean, we could do that without grants, if you wanted to do that.
And how much do you think that would cost?
I have no idea, Bob,
You just said it wouldn't cost that much.
$25,000 maybe, I don't know. I say not that much.
Where would we
Easy
come
for
up,
me to say
where would
not
we
my
come up
money.
with the money, though?
Yeah,
Is
that's
what I'm
saying.
asking.
We've got this money. Maybe it is 25,000. We can get it done. I think it's a good use of the grant that way, and then the township doesn't have to pay for it.
That's true. That's
Like
true.
if we had
D,
something
comment?
now.
I've just another question. Is this the grant that they said that we had to maintain that cottage for 40 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
How can we agree to maintain something for 40 years?
Well, as far as we know, this park's gonna be here forever, so.
And it's not worded maintain it, it's the fact that you're doing stuff to take that you're expected. What you're doing, you expect it to last 40 years, I think is
Oh,
more the
okay.
way it's worded.
Oh, I see.
You're not
Okay.
just
Well, that
choosing,
makes
you know,
sense.
that's been a while ago that I wrote that, but that to me was that thing, they just don't want you just throwing stuff up, et cetera. That was
Okay,
the way I
makes
interpreted it.
sense.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
So I think basically what you're thinking is, and what I was thinking too, that if we did one on the bottom ADA and did that one on the top as a,
We wouldn't have to do ADA, we didn't use the grant stuff.
you're right.
But the question is, how much would it cost to get, and where would we?
won't know that until we just,
Mhm.
Like if we
just
have
like
the
the
money
bathroom
now
business.
and want to do a cabin, like it seems like a very good use of our time, resources.
I tend to
Like-
agree.
Say that one more time for me. Say that again.
Like at the moment where we have money that we're not fighting the community on or anything like that, we want like a cabin and we have all these resources available, like I feel like it would be a really good use of our time to get something built and started by next summer. Like it was very,
Okay.
I agree with her, but once again, we have to verify that, you know, because it might not be near as cheap as you think. you
Right.
know,
We don't know.
Once we know. But I agree, that it'd be handy to where it'd be up and running and available.
Well, I guess
So-
my suggestion, Paul, would be, and see what everybody else feels about this, is if you go to the board and say, you know, we want to see that cabin up and running by this summer, how can we make that happen? How can we
Yeah.
do that? Do we have the money set aside somewhere to do this without using the grant? Or would it have to be part of the grant? And if so, we all know that it has to be AD compliant. But I guess I would maybe put it back in, well, it's gotta go to the township board and they have to decide, but if they say, well, I don't know where that money's gonna come from and it's still gonna be, another 6 years before we get any other money for the cabin renovations. I don't know.
And it'd be interesting that, on that cabin too, to know what needs to be done. I was thinking when we repaired that deck, in effect, to where that, it just seems like there's enough, retirees around here that, the area there. And, I just took and got a beautiful window for $15 up at the Restore.
Yeah, I think we should all be going to the Restore on
a
behalf of the
beautiful
park
window I
all
just picked
winter.
up for $15. They were 75% off all their windows.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff to where I just think that, that'd be something else to consider for us to start on that around, April or so.
I think we
You know,
should be going
that
all
it-
winter.
I get.
I thought of
well,
that
but-
too.
But once again, it's those the kind of stuff. But once again, there might be so many things that need to be done to that cabin that it looks in good shape, but maybe it's not.
Which cabin are we talking about?
That one on top of the hill.
So-
It looks like it's in good shape, and it would take very, very minimal to do it. But to make it usable was one thing. To make it ADA is another thing. And so those are the things we need. We're dealing in too many unknowns right now to make a decision.
I agree. I think Anna makes a really good point
Yeah.
that we need a win.
Mhm.
But we don't know until we find out if we can reallocate those resources.
We're talking about windows too, if we got like 2 windows
Mhm.
to bring the other ones down, to where they could see out of them, not just the ones now that you're gonna stand like this and look out of. Bring the windows down in the front part of the building where maybe there's a picnic table in there or something.
Well, we said maybe take that first bunk beds out there
Right,
and have a table there so you can sit there and have your
Right.
lunch or,
Look out the
whatever.
window.
right.
And, yeah.
Well, I've got a window that I would donate too. I've got a bay window, and it's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's probably 4 feet wide. We could put that on one side, and you'd have a window there that people that they could see out of. And if we picked up a couple of more, like Jim says, from the Restore, you could have windows in that place for a few $100s, and
So what would we like Paul to go to the board with? Do we want to say, here's a thought about using that grant money, but we also would like to know if there's funds available that we could have the engineering done so we would know what it would cost, either ADA or non-ADA compliant? Could we get that money to do that study, to find out what it would cost so we would have a better handle?
If we did it ourselves without grant money, with all the strings attached that grants have, not an ADA in other words, we could get bids from contractors to say, all right, we want this done. Just like you were building your house, and I want this bathroom and I want this kind of flooring and all that stuff that people, when they talk to a contractor to do. So I would just approach it. Here's what I've got. I said, if the board would agree that we could do the upper cabin and possibly, and here's the possibility, that we could do the ADA one down below and this one up here we could do ourselves. Is that what we're thinking? One of the things.
Is it possible to do that? Yeah.
And then the question was, is there money available?
Mhm.
And the kinds of things, and again, we could get a contractor to give us some bids, get several contractors to give bids. We can't just be flopping around with, well, this, that, and the other. We need to say, here's the list, this is what we want. And see, so we can get apples to apples.
Right.
Windows, we ought to talk about windows that are larger, just a couple, or one, or whatever it was we talked about.
I'd do one large on each side.
I would too. I'd put
Of
one on
that
the
door.
sides. I'm still of the opinion fixing up that one on top for ADA, but
All right, so it's all right, but, so, And the one on the top for ADA is actually good because it has the room for the large
Correct.
shower arrangement that we'd have to do and so forth. But.
Yeah, we did discuss though that those other ones, you could move the wall very
Yes,
easily.
and we could move the
That
wall,
wall could be
any
moved
one
very
of them
easily,
could move
yeah.
the walls on. Couple of big windows on the corner.
We'd have to
The bunk
fix,
beds out, except maybe you'd leave a few or two. And we hadn't decided, do we want bedrooms, a couple bedrooms, whatever. we
or
want.
maybe one for mom and dad, and, you know, the kids can be out in the bunk beds or something.
Just divide, yeah, like not even considered a bedroom, but like a divider,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And then we also suggested that that front deck be fixed or replaced or whatever,
Raise it
because
up
that's,
and-
yeah, it's not standardized and it's a little squishy.
Well, really, no.
Maybe we should say, I think we all agree that we'd like to see something with that upper cabin done by this summer.
Well, I think it's a conundrum because we really need to fundraise for all of our capital improvements as much as possible. You know, and we might be able to go to the Charlevoix County Parks and Recs and get 10 grand or something toward it. But I don't expect support for a lot of capital investment from our board, but I don't know, I guess you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, you know, the other thing is those, if they decided to spend $20,000 to redo one of the cabins, not $80,000, and just spend $20,000 or $25,000. As far as I'm concerned, it'd be a great investment because
For the
if you can
a
start
lot of
renting
reasons, yeah.
at $700 a week, it would take you very long to recoup that money.
And I'd be really concerned about what you said, Jim. Trying to shift grant money to something, especially if it's a lesser amount, or
Well, the part that I'm concerned about is once again that, you know, and I couldn't get it, I was so busy I couldn't go look at the cabins again.
Mhm.
But I remember that one was in really good shape.
Mhm.
But more than likely for ADA, there'll be electrical units, power panels have to be moved. I mean, you have to meet all these regulations kind of stuff. And a sink that would be usable as it is right now, nope. Now you gotta put a new sink in, you
Right.
gotta put a new.
And how do you get to them? And
Well, but once again, I'm just thinking of that
Mhm.
cabin, you know, but I remember that cabin, it seemed like it was in really good shape. And it looked
Okay.
like without a lot of money, it could be made usable. But if we make it ADA, it's gonna be
It's
a
gonna
lot
be a
of things
big
that now are
thing.
usable, now have to be changed.
right,
You know, and
I
that
see.
bothers me of the fact of the, you know, I mean,
Yeah, like
the.
throwing it away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that, so,
It seems like that ADA
now maybe not,
grant money is probably well allocated to that one down on the lakefront, but again, we
just
can't
but
do
until-
that until we,
until we have the
Move
ADA guy
past-
come and visit that cabin to tell you what things have to be, you know, I mean, because, and there are some contractors that are that knowledgeable too, that they would know right away of what things have to be changed. But once again, what I remember that cabin, a lot of that could be left as it is and be usable for non-ADA. But if we change it to ADA, we're gonna encounter, and it has to be licensed electricians, licensed plumbers, all that kind of stuff. And the money adds up real quick.
yeah, okay.
Well, Bob, you probably have
Conundrum.
experience in doing ADA compliant stuff.
I still feel like after looking at all the cabins with you and Paul, that one on the top is our best shot, our best use of funds.
Okay.
If we can get it transferred to it. Because even when you're talking not much, I mean, it needs a new roof, the deck needs work,
Well, it needs
windows
shingles.
need work. Pardon?
Shingles.
Yep.
Yeah,
Instead of new roof.
Well, it sounds like we can't really make any of these decisions until we know if we would be able to get money for the cabin on
Right.
top. So maybe that should be step one.
Exactly.
Well, definitely we have to talk to the grant people, see if we could transfer.
Oh, and talk to the board.
Well, the way the grant is written, it didn't specifically
No,
say a
no.
cabin. It
Right,
said,
right.
it said 2 or 3 cabins. And if you change the
We need to
number,
change a few things.
you have to go back and talk with them.
I'd kind of be surprised if they would say we couldn't do it. But here's my thought. We want to get something up and running, and we're going to be, and if phase 1 goes through, we're going to be right in the middle of it next summer. If we don't know, I can't imagine it being another summer without something happening, a decision made. So with that in mind, I'm thinking we should go for that cabin on the top for our first try.
To explore what, yes.
And
Find out what it would cost.
Find out what it-
If they'll
find out.
agree to that.
We don't know unless we get that
Right,
first thing
And
done.
also talk to the board and say, if we decided not to go ADA on the top cabin and not to use that money, how much would the township be willing to spend on that? You know, 15, 20, 25,000, 10,000, whatever, to make it usable, whether it be ADA or not. Because, you know, I realize that we're gonna have to have ADA, and I think we're gonna have to have at least a couple of cabins.
Well, if this township starts spending its own money, you're gonna have people who are saying, what about our pavilions and our baths?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, before you start renting out
Right, yep.
to the public.
You're right.
Well,
I'm sorry,
your
it's,
bathrooms and your pavilions aren't gonna pay for anything, no.
I agree, but I know that's gonna go, I suspect that would be an issue, pretty big one.
I mean, but right now, the nice thing is the fact with this one, it's like we're getting for every dollar we put in, someone else puts in 3, you know, for that. And that is that's a real big, you know,
And we can do this again.
right, yes.
We can do another grant.
Correct.
Another cycle.
Correct.
But this puts the ore in the water. And what Robin said at one of the meetings was, she said, well, you know, we gotta get the backbone in. That's how she referred to it. as the
Yeah, that was-
road. But
that was
we
pretty
need to
brilliant.
get the basic phase 1 stuff. If that's what we're gonna do, we gotta get that in. And then everything else will fit. There'll be parking down there. We can just right away do the ADA stuff along the lake there. That's what's decided. But I think we're a good year plus away from getting it all done. So, I mean, all phase 1. If it gets.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem if that's what you guys wanna do, is do the top one. I'm just saying that from what I saw and from what I've seen of the plans and everything for, you know, where the parking is and everything
Yeah,
down below.
it'll be fine.
That number 1 down there is perfect for,
Well, I think
And handicap.
we could say that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
The next thing we wanna do is cabin 1.
right.
Then, of course, we have to make some decisions, you know, that Marlene is particularly interested in the old bathhouse, or there's not a bathhouse, but it's a toilet thing. And the way I'm thinking about it is, I don't know if that's such a good idea. It's such a limited building, it's so narrow. Bob did measure, and we could do it, but to my way of thinking,
You talking about the showers?
yeah, they're not showers, they're just toilets,
No, just the opposite. Where are you talking about?
right behind cabin 1, the toilets. Or was that,
No,
showers.
Showers, that's a,
There were no
and
toilets.
in pretty decent shape.
No toilets.
There are no toilets,
No
all
toilets.
showers.
All showers.
All right.
But it could, you know, that building is in good shape. Probably as good as any building down there. And it's also made a cement block.
But the thing we noticed was none of those showers were ADA accessible.
Oh, I know they're not, and you'd have to tear out
Mhm.
2/3
lot.
of it.
Yeah.
Because if you had to tear that all out, why wouldn't you just, I mean, if for ADA, I should think you'd want a toilet in the cabin, if you could do it. And as long as you're in the toilet business, why don't we just put the shower in too? I just
Well-
don't quite see the idea.
You're gonna run into problems when you go to rent, that's why. Because you're gonna have everybody wanting those ADA cabins, and nobody's gonna wanna pay, if they're all the same price, but they may not be, we may not be able to do that. But if you've got a cabin that's got a bathroom in it, that's gonna be the number one rented cabin the whole time probably.
You just reinforce what I'm thinking. If we wanna rent them, if we
Yeah, like-
put
I know, but
facilities in
if you
there-
put if you put one in every cabin and have a bathroom in every cabin, how many cabins can you know, it'll take us years to get all those done.
We're not worried about years. I'm not worried about years. Jim has told me in the past, the main thing is that we got the camp. We got that property for the public. We can spend 20 years fixing it up.
Wouldn't surprise me at all for
I mean,
10 to 15 years
Yeah.
before much changes.
the big hurdle was made, but I think that, I think it's pie in the sky to think you're gonna have those people in their wheelchairs go hoofing over to that, another building.
And like I said,
I
those
think we
cabins
need to
that,
get them in that one building and everything's right there for them, and their families with them and all that sort of stuff.
Well, can we have a group consensus here about what Paul should mention to the township board?
That's fine, I don't have a problem with going with the one on top and then just
Okay, I think we should
later
start
on,
there,
though.
because we'd like to see something happen by this summer, and I think that's a good option. And you'll know, once you do the preliminary stuff, what, as Anna said, you know, what's it gonna cost to make it ADA compliant? And what, you know, if it wasn't ADA compliant, what would that cost be? Let's go from that point.
And once we go with the grant, as Bob mentioned, there's 9,000 or so that has to go for engineering or whatever. So that'll be upfront sort of stuff right away.
And who
Okay.
knows
But
if
we have to get
9,000 will even
permission.
cover it?
Hmm?
Who knows if 9,000 will cover it?
Well, it just might not.
I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah.
We'll find out. So we'll never know until we start.
Okay,
So what we're doing tonight is deciding what you'd like to recommend to the board. Where to go, and then find out if we can do it
Right.
from the grant people, and go from there. And the urge and the feeling, the consensus is, as I get it, is we should get something going with this rental cabin stuff instead of just talking about it all the time. And
And we
we have the
should-
grant, and it's just sitting there, and we have a timeline that we're allowed to use it, and it's another year or so to use it, and if we start the ball rolling now, we'll be able to use it by the time that's done. I can't tell you the exact date, it's in here, I'll have something.
so we'd like them to consider the one up on the hill.
That's what I'm gonna
Okay.
tell them.
All right, okay.
If somebody that can convince me otherwise, or that you wanna do something else, all right.
The next to last thing, if we get time here, the host cabin rental. It was brought up a few years ago, I think, and the host cabin wasn't ready to be rented at that point in time. But last summer, a lot of us chipped in and did a lot of things to help with that, and along with Christine Adams' work there. So it's been brought up again that maybe the suggestion to the board should be that we get the host cabin rented this summer. Again, it would show the public that we're moving in the right direction. It's something that I think everybody can agree on is a positive direction to go. So I put that in here for discussion.
Yeah.
Well, the last hosts, we had 2 sets of hosts, and one stayed in their trailer. And I would say that whoever wants to stay as our camp hosts would supply their own facility to be in, their own trailer or,
Well, they did say too that they want
They
to
want to come back.
into the
They want
house.
to come back.
So.
but they also have a facility that, as an alternative, and if we're talking about bringing money in to our camp and showing what we, are doing, I think that's a step in the right direction to get that running.
Well, maybe we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe we could rent it out for a minimal amount of money. And I'm not talking, $20 bucks or something, but rent it out for a few $100s and have it so that those, that's part of their duties to, because even that, I mean, if you're gonna rent a house on Lake Charlevoix in the summertime, you're gonna be a minimum of $1,100 to $1,200. And I don't know how you can, I don't think you can rent that just as a cabin and not have something for the host to stay in.
I don't agree. I think they have the facility, if they want to stay there. If you go to a state forest or state park and they have camp hosts there, the camp hosts stay in their own trailers.
But everybody camps there.
They have the privilege of staying
Right.
there
Right, but everybody camps there.
for the whole summer. So I'm just throwing that out because it's been brought up before. I think it would be, bring some money in. I think it's something that's ideal that's up and ready to go. And we could be making some decent
Not gonna
money.
be
as you're
ideal
talking
if they're building a road down there next summer.
No.
Well, not ideal, agreed, but I doubt that's gonna happen anyway, this summer, but whatever.
Why don't we, on next Monday, why don't we ask the board if there's any support for that idea?
Okay,
Let's do that.
I'm happy with that. I just think it should be discussed, so. And I guess the last part of this is activities at Camp Siegel for 2018. I'd like you to put your thinking caps on some of the ideas that, whether phase 1 is happening or whatever, what activities we could do this summer or even this spring for our township residents. I thought had a pretty good end of the summer beach party, and it might be nice to do a spring kickoff of some sort. So I'd like you to at least consider that, think about some suggested ideas, whether it's kids' activities or community activities or a farmer's market or a community-wide trunk sale. Everybody brings their stuff there and you can barter and trade and swap and, clean out your house stuff or whatever. I'm
Have a
just
flea
throwing,
market there.
yeah, flea market, who knows? And that wouldn't cost us anything, and again, it would get people here, and we'd have some.
Actually, you can, if you have an area like that playground, you could actually cordon that off and rent out space for booths for people who want to come and sell their stuff at the flea market. I don't know how much is involved as far as you have to have some kind of licensing or whatever.
I don't
but,
know.
Other states do it all over the place, and when we were out east, they're everywhere out there.
Yeah.
So, and it's a kind of a thing where people can come and
They socialize and they,
yeah, it's a very enjoyable kind of thing.
So any suggestions like that, I'd like to be, I'd like you to think about, and I'd like to talk about next time if we can, if we have time. Because I'd like to do some kind of spring kickoff, whatever it is, to get people out there.
We'll bring that up Monday too.
Okay, thank you.
Any ideas?
Anything else that we haven't covered that somebody wants to discuss here
I just had
on the agenda?
a question. The county Parks and Rec grant that is coming up in January, does the county Parks and Rec board dole those grants out? Does anybody know?
Do they what?
Does the county Parks and Rec board give out that money?
Yes.
Okay. I've been to a few county Parks and Rec meetings last few months, and they're going to be looking for people on their board if anybody's interested.
Is there anybody from Hayes that's on there now?
Marlene's been
No,
on.
okay.
She's not on it now. She wasn't at the meetings. These are the meetings that are at Whiting Park. Yeah, she hasn't been at those.
Well, then it's a different group, because she's on the one that gives out the money,
Okay.
you know.
Oh, so, all right, got it.
So that's a different,
Must be a separate group
Yeah.
then.
good.
Well, if there's nothing further to discuss, you know what's going to happen at the next meeting, at least tentatively. Some of the things we've talked about, having Kirsten Stark there and Ross Maxwell, so come with your questions. And anything else you feel strongly about that needs to go on the agenda, please let me know as soon as possible.
Is she also going to be at the board meeting next month too, or just here?
Just at our meeting that I know of. I don't know whether she'll be at the township board meeting.
What is the date and time of the next meeting?
December
Our meeting is December
11th. Oh, that's a board meeting.
December 6th is our meeting here at 5:30. Okay, meeting adjourned, and you're welcome to stay for the next meeting and
Don't do a
fundraising.
summary of what,
Yes, you want to do a summary for us, Paul, what you're going to talk about on the board meeting?
Let me ask you a question. The recreation grant money from the county, is a cabin, anything that would qualify for that?
I'd have
Yes.
to relook at their, I mean, they have such weird kind of things, but it probably would.
I think so.
You mean for extra money for?
It has to be
Yeah.
of a direct
Doing cabins.
recreational
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
Right. so okay, would
It's kind
definitely
of
fit
the
there, huh?
paramount, but I
If
don't
we
know.
get a, well,
I wonder if a bathroom at a Eastern Avenue beach might qualify.
Yeah. I'll bet. They'd probably love something like that.
But especially like the deck on that, I mean, there could be parts, put in that,
Mhm.
definitely.
Mhm.
you say the next round is in January?
You
You
said
said
February
You said
The
February
deadline for
1st.
Submission is February 1st.
February 1st.
Yeah.
So we'd have to talk about it next month.
And get it ready
Alright.
quick.
So I'm gonna add on there recreation.
Dee,
Michelle, didn't Marlene say at the last, one of the meetings that you could apply for 2 grants from the park or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could apply for one, then you could apply for
See, what I'm
2
thinking
10,000
is,
grants.
Bobby found out that we can do foundations for under 10 grand.
When Ritchie Construction came out and looked at it, they talked about doing 2 cabins while they were there, and they were just going to replace what was there. And I'm not sure if they were going down 42 inches below the frost line, so I'm not sure if what they were proposing was what we would have to do. But they were saying 15,500 to do 2 of them to match the way they were.
On pilings.
on pilings, right?
No, on piers, there would be a foundation pad and then a block pier built up.
Right,
He's talking about running it down to the frost line,
right.
42 inches.
Correct.
All right. Anyway, all right, so to answer your question, on the Eastern Avenue parking, we're gonna find out if we have, Annie, we're gonna find out if that Charlotte Township actually owns that land and if it would be big enough to put a bathroom. Then, so if so, we would ask Charlotte Township could agree to do a joint venture on a bathroom on that property. But first, we would also need to get Brian Graham's opinion as to whether or not the agreement would allow us to, if it was over there, it wouldn't make any difference for what. But if it was gonna have to be on our side, then with the boring, put the utilities through to the bathhouse, would that meet with any opposition or legally, so to speak? So, that we need to do, all right, and the board will take care of that. Tennis court nets, that came up, need to come down, and I'll ask her.
I'll call her tomorrow and.
All right, I'll bring
I'll
it
take
up
care of
anyway,
that.
find out if anything's decided.
Yeah.
I'll let them know that Kirsten Stark's gonna come at the December meeting, the Recreation Committee, and that's gonna be December 6th, you said?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right, on the cabins, the consensus of the Recreation Committee is that we should get something going with the cabins. And because phase 1 has not been decided, and if it were decided, the construction would be next year, and not a good idea to be trying to get a cabin ready down below. So we would ask about the cabin up on the ridge. It's the newest one, we all know which one it is. And then we would say that if the board agreed with that, then we would need to find out from the grant people, the administrator, whether we could do that and move it up to there. Whether it would require anybody to come and look at it, I don't know. But anyway, we would start that. The board would do that. So I think that's where we are right now. Is there anything else on the cabin that would need to be discussed, that I should say?
We just need to know how much it would cost to do the ADA
Well,
compliant.
Well, the board's not gonna decide that, they're gonna have to get
we won't know
some
that.
No, but we
until
just need to get that information, is what we're saying.
We sign up with somebody, an engineer or somebody. We're gonna need an engineer to do this. If we're gonna
Right.
get this grant. So that would be something that we would have to talk about. And then, let me just write that down. Host cabin as a rental, and we'll just ask that to the board. Anybody think that's a good idea? And that we're working on 2018 activities, and if anybody, the board or the audience has any input, then we'd like to hear about it. Then I thought I'd bring up the subject of the recreation grant from the county, if there's any way we could do anything with the cabins with that money. I mean, we've got it for like the bathroom and the lighting. I think that those two I know are already earmarked for the phase one. And that's $20,000. I don't know if there's any more out there. Anybody know?
Well, there will be next year.
No, I mean, I think those are the only two grants that I know
Oh,
of that have been
yeah.
approved and
Mhm.
are waiting to
Yeah.
be done. So the question is, could you use that money? Could you apply for it and then do like the foundations? Like,
Mhm.
could we start and use that money to fix the foundations down along the lake, on the one that we want to do? And Jerry and I talked about it was cabin one, and you were saying three. Those two were pretty good. So anyway, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Would you also just
Thank
follow
you.
up on that motion from our last meeting about the letter?
Mhm.
This was on the parking.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, to Shelby Township.
Township board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Paul, and thank you, committee, and we'll see you here next month.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Fundraising committee, take over. Some of us are, I think. Well,
So either he loves those, he's something else. He's gonna charm everybody with that dimple, and it's all over. Good, good, good.
I'm glad, thank you. Oh, thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm excited.
I am too. We'll talk more.
Absolutely, absolutely.